welcome again to another episode of the UKGJJ podcast. I'm your host as always, Sacha Martin-Luther King, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu instructor and black belt, and this is your source, your choice for everything Gracie Jiu-Jitsu related. And it's new, and it's improved, and it's happening right now. In today's podcast. In this new and improved podcast, you'll be introduced to more of the UKGJJ team. You'll also have an opportunity to listen to part one of a unique Ryron Gracie interview from his visit here in the UK earlier this year, as well as a sneak preview from part two of the same interview. You're going to hear your competition winner from the last episode and also a chance to win even more prizes.
My name is Ryron Gracie, and you're listening to the UKGJJ podcast.
This podcast is available on iTunes. Go to the iTunes store and search UKGJJ podcast. For extra images and for extra footage to accompany your listening pleasure, check out the video version of this podcast through YouTube.
Você está escutando o UKGJJ Podcast.
It's time! Welcome to episode 3 of the UKGJJ podcast. Now, the people spoke and we answered. They said, Sacha, your voice is so tantalizing. It kind of sends us into a trance and we lose ourselves. And just for the safety of your listeners, as beautiful and magical as your voice is, we would like a little bit more depth. Do you know what I'm saying? And just to save us from ourselves and the trance-like state that we go in when we listen to you, what about bringing somebody else into the podcast to add a different dimension? Hey, listen, every day I change lives. That's what I do. And I said, listen, no. I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. And obviously your safety out there, listeners, is my concern. And I understand the power of my dulcet tones, could be hypnotizing to the people out there. So I said, okay, for the safety of the listeners, not only am I going to bring somebody else into the podcast, forget it. Here at UKGJJ, we always like to go that one step further. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new and improved podcast with additional hosts. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you the other two certified Gracie Jiu-Jitsu instructors from UKGJJ. Introducing first, Josh, Anakin, Taylor, and Francis, Red Baron Bubble Hobble Double Robinson. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi.
Oh man, it's gonna be like that, is it? So, Josh, my man, what's going on?
I'm okay, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. Have you guys been listening to the podcast?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Because you do teach a lot of classes here at UKGJJ, and where do you get the time to listen to podcasts?
That's a good question.
Absolutely. So, Josh Anakin Taylor, by the way. Yeah, he's a prodigy. He is Anakin. He was a chosen one. This young Justin Bieber-like fellow came waltzing in one day, chewing at the bit to learn Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I could sense the power in this one. First of all, let's just introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners out there who are not familiar with your Bieber-like substance. So, bro, what's your name? How old are you? What do you do?
Yes.
Why are you here?
So, my name's Josh Taylor. I am 25 years old and I'm a certified Gracie Jiu-Jitsu instructor.
What's your rank, bro?
I am a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu purple belt.
Ooh, get you.
Got that in June, so yeah, it was pretty cool. Got it from here on. And yeah.
And what do you do? What kind of classes do you teach at UKGJJ?
Here I'm teaching predominantly the adult classes, so the Gracie Combatives classes, the Master Cycle, teaching a lot of the kids classes as well. Actually, stuff teaching all the little kids is great. Gracie games, bulletproof, all that. It's great.
Sounds pretty cool. Over here, Mr. Bobble. Introduce yourself there, please, Bobble.
My name's Francis.
Why are you looking at me? That is your name.
I'm not 36.
You're gonna get used to this one.
I'm enjoying doing the instructing, and the classes, Master Cycle, and
Let's have a bit of background in regards to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu first of all. We'll start with you, Josh.
Sure.
How did you know about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? How did you hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? More importantly, how did you hear about me?
So, I think my story is pretty much the same as, 90% of the people who start Jiu-Jitsu, which was watching the original UFCs, seeing Royce Gracie do his thing, and thinking, I want to be able to do that, beat up big guys, whatever. So, I started looking around for clubs. Couldn't really find anything at first. I came across a club on this online directory, going by the name of Club Venom.
What, the Gracie Academy?
No, it was on just a kind of BJJ website.
Sorry about that. That was back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So I gave Club Venom a ring, and this wonderful little voice answered the phone.
Why'd you got to bring little into it?
Yes, and I asked him straight away, I'm interested in doing jiu-jitsu. Went and checked it out, had a free class, awesome. And then actually my very first training partner was the guy sat to my left.
No, really?
Mr. Bobble.
Was it Bobble?
My very first training partner.
Do you even remember that, Francis?
I remember it.
Tell me the truth. Do you even remember? You've never seen this guy before in your life.
Yeah,
that's really coincidence.
Yeah,
really
cool, right? Yeah, lesson 22, twisting arm control and rear takedown.
Awesome.
And then so got into it. Absolutely fell in love with it after one class. Amazing. And then just carried on from there. I think 3 weeks later, I was holding a video camera for you. And filming people doing their blue belt tests, reading out the list of the moves.
Really?
Yeah, just 3 weeks later. And then after that, just slowly carried on, kind of helping out with the club and doing kind of the classes with your private classes. And just continued from there. Got my blue belt after 6 months. And then,
And then the journey continues. It's kind of interesting. Because, even when you first came into the club, I get to meet a lot of different people, but I kind of knew there was something about you. So even 3 weeks into your training, I'd already pulling you aside, and I think they were already making you the bad guy in my private lessons that I was doing.
Yeah, that's correct.
Probably because I was really old and injured, and I needed somebody younger to be able to take the impact. You know what I mean? So you became a stunt double for Sacha Martin-Luther King.
That's pretty Matt Rat, I think is what you call me.
Dude, it's good learning though. It's good learning. Francis, what about you, bro? How did you get into this whole Gracie Jiu-Jitsu thing? Because I know you come from a slightly different background.
Yeah. Well, originally I was doing something called Aikido.
Something.
And well, basically.
Sorry, at some point we need to verify why we were laughing when you said Aikido, by the way, because there's
I don't know.
Aikido people out there will be like, what? Why are they laughing?
I did it for.
We got to tell them that story about the Aikido competition, by the way, that you went to.
I did it for a long time.
Okay, cool.
But again, being a smaller, weaker individual,
young lady,
I've always struggled, with bigger guys, and I've always, walking about on the street, not having very.
You always struggled walking about on the street,
Yeah, but I've never had very much, confidence in myself and stuff like that. Being smaller and feeling less manly than other people.
I'm smaller than you anyway.
But anyway, I saw the internet, and then I saw Royce Gracie, doing what he was doing.
Same thing then. So we're all the same in regards to freeing Royce.
And I thought I've got to find out where they do something like this. And then I looked online, and I saw your classes were being taught at Richard Dunn, the Gracie Combatives, and so I decided to go down and try a class, and from there, it just.
What was? Do you remember your first class? Do you remember the first person you trained with?
No. I do remember actually.
Who?
It was Lansbury.
Superman.
Big guy, tall guy.
Okay.
Headlock escape number 2. And,
that was your first class?
First class.
And you stayed?
And I stayed because, I thought there's this big guy grabbing me in this headlock, and all in the way it was taught and the way it was presented and the way it was broken down. I thought, well, this is something that I can actually learn.
You're welcome.
And stick to. So, yeah.
So you knew, you both kind of knew then, for the first time that you went in and you tried the class, right? Yeah. That it was for you, right?
Straight away. Absolutely. I mean, it's like nothing I've ever trained before, because I've done karate back when I was a kid. And that was just like hours and hours. I just stood there punching imaginary people.
I think we all did that, right?
Yeah, and it's just, you never had the sense that you were actually preparing for something real. Even as a kid, I was always like, well, this is a bit of nonsense, really. I mean, who's going to just stand in front of me and let them do this? But then when
You had that realization as a kid, because when I was a kid, I thought I could knock out 30 people. That was real in my head at the time.
It was like ballet, you know, it was just dance moves. You know, I suppose you know, it's okay if people are into that, but it just wasn't for me. And I didn't really stick at the karate.
But you were training Muay Thai anyway before you did the Jiu-Jitsu,
right? I had one Muay Thai fight, got absolutely pagged, you know, so I kind of swiftly realised that wasn't for me, you know, getting hit in the face and all that. So, but when I started, it's just, because there was none of that kind of stood in one spot and doing katas and imaginary kind of sequences with imaginary opponents, it really struck me straight away that I could actually use this. This is actually preparing for a real fight. So
you were both, is it fair to say you were both drawn to the techniques, or were you drawn to the kind of energy of the class? Because that's a different energy, right?
The energy was there, and also like Joshua just said, the something you can actually use. It's real. It's like, you know, right. With the Aikido, you do a technique and the guy just flies off in the air, you know, break falling and stuff. Whereas this, I can actually see how practical and real it is, and it's dealing with real things like headlocks, you know, being punched on the ground. What if there's a bigger guy on top of you? And it felt like, well, this is a position I could be in, and it's not being covered.
You both come from different backgrounds, but you also both bring different things to you, and you kind of like my children. I'm very proud of you both, but I'm proud of you both in different ways also. Now, when Josh Bieber, Captain America, walked through the door, he was already super athletic, pretty confident, you know what I mean? Pull up a picture of this guy. He does look like Captain America, you know what I mean? He already came in with that kind of athleticism and stuff like that. It just happened to be a guy who just would soak up information, and still is, would soak up information like a sponge, and you could definitely see the potential. And obviously, your parents done an amazing job of raising you, because you're a very personable, nice chap. So I already knew that this guy's got potential as from being a student, but also from being a teacher, because it would just be really easy for you to pass on this information. It was just natural. It was a natural fit, and therefore I basically grabbed you and made you what you are now. Against your will. You had no choice about it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it was obvious. It was very, very good. Yeah. Whereas Francis, and I'm very proud of the way that you are right now, and we'll get into you as individuals, and we'll break down all your accomplishments and what you've done up to this stage in later podcasts. Super proud of you, but why you were developed, why you were created, was basically to beat me. I needed somebody that I would be able to teach all my weaknesses to, and show you how to attack me and stuff like that, so that I would be able to get better, right? Francis was different. And I'm like really proud of him in a different way also. And that way is that when you came in to the certified training set, the first time that I seen you, it was a different thing, like you mentioned before. It wasn't I'm super confident or anything like that. It was the opposite. You were introverted, quiet, kept to yourself, not full of confidence by any stretch of the imagination, especially when I was talking to you and stuff like that, and not athletic. You know what I'm saying? Not athletic. And over the time that I'd spent, you know, teaching you and you being with us, I saw you blossom from that to what you are now, which is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? It's a complete turnaround from when you walked in. And I mentioned this to you before because I'm very, very proud of it. But that, to me, and you above everything, even above Captain America right now, right, is, for me anyway, the epitome of what Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stands for. As in, the weaker, smaller, frailer person being able to, first of all, build the confidence, but get the technique to seal the deal on big guys. Now, I've been privileged enough to see you seal the deal on lots of bigger guys now. Do you know what I'm saying? But that transformation is absolutely amazing. And I'm super freaking proud of that, because that is like amazing. Well, another thing that's amazing about Captain America over here, Josh, by the way, is that he never had any kind of grappling background whatsoever. Everything in jiu-jitsu that you learned was 100% through UKGJJ. Well, you can say through me, but technically I'm just a puppet for the Gracie Academy. It's through the Gracie Academy and their amazing curriculum that they've set out. So you're both absolutely fantastic in different ways, which I think is amazing. And in particular in France as well, and I think I mentioned this to you before. I mean, Henna and Ryron, as you know, they're fantastic for our instructors. They're the freaking best instructors that you could ever have in the world, you know what I mean? Anybody who says any different that doesn't really know what they're talking about, you know what I mean? They're absolutely amazing. But sometimes I can't help but think that their message is a little bit, not lost, but it isn't underlined as much because they're 9 foot tall. You know, the new generation of the Gracies are like 9 foot, you know what I'm saying? So they can show you a perfect technique, and then in someone's head they might say, yeah, but Henna, you know, you're 9'8". So even though they're doing small guys jiu-jitsu, which was just based on, it's all based on a smaller guy being able to, you know, defeat the bigger and strong guy, the new generation of those guys, they're like they're not small. Do you know what I'm saying? So, Henna, Ryron, I mean, we're representing the small guys over here. Do you know what I mean? So we'll take that part of the race and we'll run it for you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Hi, my name is Josh Anakin Taylor, and you're listening to the UKGJJ podcast. Peace.
In June 2015, Ryron Gracie flew over to the UK to conduct an exclusive UKGJJ seminar over here with us. I took the opportunity to do a 60-minute interview with Ryron at his hotel. This is part 1 of that interview. So ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Ryron Gracie. Hello people, we're here. This time with Ryron Gracie in Bradford. Just finished doing a seminar over here in the UK. Ryron, it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. So you do a lot of traveling around the world, seminars.
I do a good amount. I think I'm doing less now. Now I have a daughter, so I don't want to travel too much anymore. So when I go somewhere, I'm almost in a hurry to leave. Except for when I step on the mat, then I just kind of want to stay there forever.
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned your daughter. We might as well talk about it straight away. How are you finding fatherhood? You getting your sleep?
Yes. Fortunate enough for me, if I wake up in the middle of the night, for whatever reason with the baby, I can fall asleep, you know, maybe 5 seconds after I wake up. So, but yes, I'm sleeping well. I take naps in the daytime still. I'm good to go.
Okay, and your daughter seems to be developing really well. I've seen video footage of her running around, pointing at dogs, standing up in base. Has the jiu-jitsu started already?
Yes, I'm already showing her, like, it's funny, the other day I grabbed her and I laid her down in the class. She's 1 year old, and I put like some 5-year-olds on top of her, and I had them kind of hold her, and then I have her fake grab their wrists and I pull them off the top, and I'm making her do moves with 5-year-olds, and she's not at all nervous. She's just kind of smiling the whole time, and so I'm already, you know, tricking her into doing jiu-jitsu moves. It's been great.
And she's young. I mean, how old is she?
1.
She's 1.
14 months.
And grappling with 5 years old already.
Yes. Not doing anything on her own. I'm doing it for her. I'm like the puppet handler, but she's still, you know, she's not stressed out or not, you know, I guess resisting the contact from a 5-year-old child, which is what I want.
So she's looking at the class. So already she's being exposed from even before she can walk to the environment of people training, of jiu-jitsu. It's going to be like second nature to her. There's going to be nothing unusual about it at all when she gets older, right?
Correct. Yeah, I see so many 5-year-old kids, or all ages actually, that step on the mat and they're very uncomfortable, very shy. And obviously she's been watching me there since birth. She sees me running around, but it's just to have kids comfortable with, you know, contact with other children. And even children who they don't really know, which is the cool part about jiu-jitsu. You don't know somebody, but if you're on the mat, there's a safety right there.
So what do you see in the future then? Is she going to be like a future world champion, or is she going to take the reins in Torrance? I mean, what would you see for a jiu-jitsu career for your daughter, if you see one at all?
I think that as a parent in general, you don't want to, you know, set out that expectation. If the only expectation I do have, if I could have one, is that she learns enough jiu-jitsu to be comfortable in worst case scenarios and just, you know how to take care of herself. If she has that, then as a parent, that's all you want, because your daughter is safe or your son is safe. To say that they're going to be the next world champion or the next, you know, head instructor of the Gracie Academy, I don't really need that. Now, I myself, my father always explain to us how important our jobs were and how what we were doing was so special, because we're teaching jiu-jitsu, carrying the original teaching principles and philosophies of our grandfather, Grandmaster Helio Gracie. So those are the kind of things that, you don't see too often anymore. The schools that teach you jiu-jitsu for self-defense and really carry the principles of efficiency and patience and timing, and also this whole idea of the keep it playful movement, schools that really teach those and follow those are very valuable. So for my daughter to continue to share those things would be great, but if she doesn't, we have guys like Sacha King that can keep doing that for us. We'll be fine.
No problem. So listen, when she gets old enough,
yes,
and she starts bringing boyfriends home, that's going to be an interesting conversation.
Well, that's wild, is that I have so many friends that say, my daughter's not going to date anybody until she's 21 years old. And I feel like the moment she can even think about dating someone, I won't have to worry about her anymore. Because she'll be so prepared up till then that it doesn't matter. So even at 14, 15, things are going to be discussed at an earlier age with myself, and just be so straightforward. You want to become your child's good friend, that they can always come to you and talk to you. So my daughter can have a boyfriend at any age that she wants. And of course, there's men out there thinking, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But yes, I do. They can do what they got to do. But I will be, preparing her for the first 14 years of her life. I'm preparing her today for her boyfriend when she's 15.
But this is the point. There's some bad seeds out there, and she might want to be with a boy who is unscrupulous or not a nice character. Now he is walking into the lion's den.
No, he's not. If he's a bad seed, she'll figure it out and she'll deal with it.
So you're not going to choke out everybody that comes knocking on the door?
No.
Flying triangle?
Not.
No.
I need to let her choke some people.
So Valen, your daughter, is going to be doing jiu-jitsu pretty much ever since she was born, which is a very similar situation for yourself. Obviously, you were brought up in the jiu-jitsu environment. You've been doing it, for as long as you can remember, basically. Is there any point that Ryron Gracie gets sick of jiu-jitsu and you just think, listen, you know what? I've done as much as I'm going to do. I wouldn't mind quitting jiu-jitsu and maybe doing something completely different, going into real estate or anything like that. Does that thought ever come across your mind?
I personally can never quit jiu-jitsu because the satisfaction from, teaching people and helping people and sharing what I know is too great. But I can see why somebody would quit. I understand exactly why they step off the mat. And as for my daughter, because I'm not going to put pressure on her to teach jiu-jitsu from the start, it doesn't have to be her business, I can see why she might feel the desire to quit. As a teenager or a young adult, she might feel overwhelmed. So it's my job to package jiu-jitsu in a way for my daughter, my students, my friends, just people that train jiu-jitsu and don't teach it, to hopefully keep them doing it forever. How can I give it to them in the safest manner, in a manner that will allow them to not feel overwhelmed or feel like they're, they need to quit.
So why do you think that people in general quit doing jiu-jitsu? Happens all the time in every school, right?
Yeah, I feel like people always say the 3 reasons they quit, from what I hear the most, are that they can't afford it, or they live too far away, and they get injured. And these 3 reasons, they make sense, but as I dig deeper, they don't make any sense at all. And it's because everybody knows somebody who says, you know what, I live too far away now. But that too far away is I live an hour-and-a-half drive. But before you said that, I knew a guy who lived 2 hours away and drove twice a week. So people are driving further than your new distance. Or an injury, I hurt my knee, I can't train anymore. People get hurt, they still come and watch, they heal, and they're back on the mat. So I think the main reason why people quit jiu-jitsu is not because of those things. It's because there's a certain feeling that they fall short people are falling short on expectations that they set for themselves. So if you train 3 days a week and you're progressing at this rate, if after like 2 years you feel like you're not progressing as much, and you indicate your progression because you notice you cannot submit student X over there, you can't submit him anymore. So you start telling yourself, man, something's not right, I'm not strong enough, I'm not fast enough, I don't have enough technique. And you start telling yourself why you're not good enough, because obviously you can't submit student X anymore. So the next thing you know, when you get injured, you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to quit jiu-jitsu now because I'm injured. But really it's the fact that you're disappointed in yourself because you can't submit that person. Now, so it has to do with expectations. The same way myself and my daughter might one day have a huge argument and huge, conflict within our family, is because I might expect something from her and she might, expect different for herself. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, if you, for example, expect yourself to be able to submit that person, and because you have been for so long, but then you can't anymore, all of a sudden there's conflict within yourself, with you and jiu-jitsu. And if there's conflict between you and jiu-jitsu, that means that there's stress between you and jiu-jitsu. And if there's stress, you're not going to want to train anymore. And the moment that happens, you're going to tell your coach, hey coach, I can't train because, and then you're going to use one of those excuses, such as I live too far, I don't have time, my work doesn't allow it, I can't afford it. But really that isn't the reason. The real reason is because of the stress that is involved when you are on the mat. And the question is, how do we eliminate this stress? Because things will happen in our lives. And if every time something happens in life, we are strong, we're feeling good, and we're feeling safe on the mat, we won't use the excuse of what happened in life to pull us off the mat. And when I say we have to feel safe on the mat, it means that we need to feel safe in the sense that we don't expect so much from ourselves. I mean, we have, little surface layer expectations, but if I'm unable to pass somebody's guard that I can usually pass, it's okay. And I look at it a little bit more, open. I say, hey, I can't pass their guard because they are getting better. They're training 5 days a week. It doesn't mean that my training 3 isn't enough and I have to quit and I feel embarrassed and I'm a big disgrace. Instead, let's find a new goal for myself. I can't pass their guard, but let's just survive in their guard and defend. So in general, the nature of jiu-jitsu is very competitive, and it's me against you, and this sparring is so intense and one wants to beat the other. But if we take that away and we lift that and we just say, let's just roll. And of course, you don't have to even have a partner that's very cooperative. My partner might want to take my head off, but my goal is just to roll, and I might even let myself be tapped out 2 or 3 times in a 10-minute roll. If they're going 100% full force, that's great. Let them tap me 2 or 3 times. Hopefully I can make it to where we end up in multiple positions and we just kind of have fun with it. And whether I tap or I tap somebody, I'm just grateful that I'm experiencing jiu-jitsu. So I don't have to be the one arm locking someone to walk away saying, man, I love jiu-jitsu. Even if I'm defending very well and I leave my elbow semi-exposed and somebody arm locks me, I should walk away saying, wow, jiu-jitsu is beautiful. Like, look how it worked against me. And obviously it's nice to be successful and, get a submission once in a while. But that happens because we have partners of all different levels. But going back to the expectations, is that there will be somebody out there that you can beat for a while, but then once you can't beat them anymore, or even worse, they start beating you. Don't allow that to be what takes you off the mat, because remember the reason why you're training in the first place. It isn't for that exact moment. It isn't for that role and for that victory in that moment. The reason why we're training is because we enjoy the camaraderie, We enjoy learning these principles of patience, of leverage, all these different things that we learn in jiu-jitsu, because those things apply to everyday life. And if we allow, our ego and our expectation to win, throw all that away, then it just seems like a big waste of time. And you invested who knows how long, a year to 3 to 4 to 5 years, and now you're going to drop it all just because somebody who's a blue belt is submitting you and you're a purple belt. And that's okay that they submit you, because blue belts, these guys are getting better, right? Every day you see a blue belt or a white belt that's doing much better things than the blue belts and white belts 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So don't be too worried about that. Just be happy that you're on the mat that pretty much is a place that allows you to do what? Learn the jiu-jitsu lifestyle and just take so much from the art that can hopefully save your life and help you in all areas of life, all the way up to fatherhood and beyond. And even when your kids are full grown, I can already see me when I'm 60 years old under using the jiu-jitsu, techniques off the mat as a 60-year-old. And I can see that because when I was with my grandfather, who was 85 years old, he would use jiu-jitsu all the time. I mean, just the way he drives. He would watch me drive a car and say, I feel like you're a little too stiff right now when you're driving. So he would help me to relax when I drove, for example. And it made sense. I was driving in Brazil, and I didn't grow up in Brazil driving, so I'm going to be a little tense behind the wheel there. But the point is that him as an older man, everything was about efficiency. You're not being efficient enough with the way that you make our breakfast smoothie this morning. You're making our juice, but you're not doing an efficient way of cutting the apples. So there it is, jiu-jitsu at 85 years old, and you might lose that if you step off the mat. And similar to my grandfather, Helio Gracie, he was on the mat till he was 90, however many years old. So I plan on doing the same thing. And wouldn't it be great if myself and all my students today could train together at 80 years old, 70 years old, could do a light 70-year-old flow, a nice little roll where we just kind of roll together and, allow 1 or 2 submissions each, with just lots of changing of positions. That would be great. And that's very unlikely with most jiu-jitsu schools and most people, because the intensity doesn't allow someone to continue at that pace for 50 years. But the intensity at which I train at does allow it. And it also allows you to, or it helps you avoid the feeling of, I'm not good enough, because you're not failing as often. We still fail, but because there's a flow, we're finding that flow in the roll, where we can actually roll. Believe it or not, I can spar for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And that's because it's a game. And I keep it as a game so it can stick by my side for life.
So what would you say the secret of being able to train jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life then? Apart from obviously having the correct mindset, it's about relaxing. I mean, what is the secret of being able to train forever?
I think if you want to train forever, you have to not concern yourself with the small fight. And the small fight is the grappling match that's right in front of you, about to happen in 1 second. You have to consider and be more concerned, or think about the big fight. And the big fight is how are your expectations going to pull you off the mat? And whether you expect yourself to train 5 days a week, but your wife only allows you, or your husband only allows you to train 3 days a week, you can say, I can't train anymore. Or whatever expectation you might fall short with. So observe your expectations, and any jiu-jitsu is better than no jiu-jitsu. And basically just make it a big game, and think about how you can work with somebody that you're sparring with to create a nice flow and just a nice roll that allows you to touch on multiple techniques. And that way, it's not me versus you. It's us versus ourselves.
So you mentioned your grandfather there, Helio, and driving. Now I remember you recounting a story and it's an amazing story. And I know you've said it before, but please, for the listeners out there who haven't heard it before, please count the story of your grandfather and the incident, or one of the incidents, where a certain car accident may have happened.
Yes. Well, my grandfather, remember, he's like the best driver in the world. And he's one of the best drivers because he does jiu-jitsu, and he applies the principles of jiu-jitsu to driving. So therefore, he is the best. And I'm smiling right now because he was the best at everything in his mind. Similar to Henner, you know. Henner is the best at everything too. So my grandfather and I go to a market, and we're at the market, and he parks his car, but another car is trying to get into a small little area that my grandfather is blocking. So the car signals, and he asks a big truck. He asked my grandfather to move his car, and my grandfather moves it. And as the man, you know, is backing in or parking, my grandfather actually moves forward again, like 3 inches, smallest amount, which causes this man's truck to hit our car. And it damages the man's truck more than our car. This little wire on the side of his tire gets kind of knocked off the tire. So he parks the car, and he comes over to my grandfather, and my grandfather says, you stay in the car. Before he noticed the man walking over, he said, you stay in the car, and if necessary, you move the car. So I said, great. So this guy walks over, and he's actually, I'm sorry, my grandfather was still in the car. The guy walks over, and he says, he says, I'm sorry. He says, hey, Helio Gracie. He recognized my grandfather immediately. But he walked over with a little bit of an attitude, but then he sees my grandfather, and he says, man, Master Helio, you just, hit my car. And my grandfather says, no, I didn't hit your car. It's your fault. You hit my car. And keep in mind that it was my grandfather's fault, but he said, man, it's your fault. And I'm not saying that my grandfather knew it was his fault. He believed that the guy was responsible. So finally, the guy then walks back to his car, parks his truck. And now my grandfather walks away and says, you stay in the car and move it if necessary. So the guy parks the car and comes back, and he says, hey, where did he go? He says, man, my car, I need this money to fix my car. It's like $20. And I'm going to have to pay with my own salary. So I think to myself, okay, I'm going to go ask my grandfather. So I walk over to my grandfather. The guy stands by our car. And I said, Grandpa, he needs money to pay for the damage of his car. If not, it's coming from his salary. And he said, the guy's trying to trick us. It's his fault. If he wants money, tell him no. But if he wants, you can fight him right now. So he basically said, you're not going to get any money. But if you want to fight, you can fight, And I'm like 50 yards or like, a good distance from this guy.
How old are you at this point?
I am 18 years old, 19. And I'm looking at this guy from a distance. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I don't want to fight this guy. And this guy, I could beat this guy up, no problem. That's not the problem. But I just didn't want to be fighting in the market, in the street, for no reason, for $20. So as I'm walking towards him, I'm thinking to myself, fight him or $20? Fight or $20? So I actually just gave the guy $10 from my own pocket, or half of the amount that he wanted. I forget what it was exactly. But I opened my wallet kind of discreetly from my grandfather being able to see me, and I just pulled out $10 and I said, sir, listen. Basically, you're not going to get any money right now from him. This is what I have. Hopefully it's enough. We can compromise. Take this, walk away smiling. And, there was no fight. It was worth it because, fighting someone, I haven't been in a street fight. I haven't been in a street fight in my life. And if I can help it, I want to avoid taking him down in the street, mounting on him, scraping my knee up. I don't want to deal with all this, okay? So I just instead gave him $10 and he walked away. And the crazy part, if I can solve every street fight like that, that would be great. Imagine if there's a street fight and someone, could take $20 or $100 to walk away. It's worth it, okay? The Gracie family was not built like that. It was built in the sense that if somebody, did anything at all that called for a beating, they would get beat up. And that was necessary you know, in the early 1900s to prove that the Gracies were, you know, tough guys and effective guys and knew what they were doing. But now the whole world knows that the Gracies know how to fight. And not only the Gracies, but anybody that, you know, knows jiu-jitsu is effective, okay? So there's no need to fight people. I'm talking even if somebody walks over to you and says the most, you know, verbally offensive thing ever, it's okay. Just say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, sir. Have a great day, and walk backwards, okay? And as you walk back, keep an eye on the person. If they attack you, you defend yourself, but don't look for reasons to get into fights, okay? The last thing I want to do is get in a street fight.
So how old are you now? You're about 32 years old, right? So there must have been some instances where there's been situations in the street where people have come up to you, I don't know whether they know who you are or whether they don't know who you are, and there has been a possibility of a conflict. And you, as Ryron Gracie, how do you deal with that? How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I would say maybe about half a dozen times. Yeah, 5 or 6 times I've had people who I am certain that relatives of mine would have beat them up.
I mean, Henzo was in an incident recently. Remember that? Tweeting?
Correct.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, Henzo's from the generation of my grandfather. Like, not that generation.
He enjoys the conflict kind of thing, though. It's like he's
well, it's not that he
fire.
enjoys it. It's just that he's programmed. He's still from that era. Even my father. One time I remember Henner was surfing, and Henner accidentally hit somebody's surfboard. And the kid that he hit was like 16, 18 years old. I was about 16. Henner was 14. And the guy was complaining, man, you don't know how to surf, and you hit my board, and you dinged my board, like pissed off. Like, and he was like a little bit down the beach from us, kind of making gestures, like mad. And my dad said, if the kid walks over here right now, beat him up. And this was me at 16. And my dad knew that me beating him up would not be me punching his face in.
Right.
It would be me taking him down, twisting his arm, and getting him to calm down. So
hopefully on video.
No, there was no camera. That's the crazy part. So it's just the nature of Hanzo, of my father, and of, you know, all these guys, Hoyce, and the generation right after my grandfather, that if there's a problem, fight right now. It's because they were young kids, and they watched my grandfather and Carlos, you know, and they grew up around those guys, and the immediate response of, if necessary, fight right now. So because they grew up around that, they a little bit carry it still. Now, some more than others. My dad today, you know, he's doing everything in his power to get us to walk away from fights, you know, and he's very much against fighting now. He's much older. But yes, Hanzo is still a little bit, he's younger, so he still has that fire. And the crazy part is that fire is sometimes important because it sends the message, and it kind of reminds people that they can't just be, they have to walk the fine line, whether it's around a Gracie or anybody, you know. And one time I had a situation where somebody verbally attacked me, and I didn't really feel attacked, but they were saying these names, these words to me. And I remember my brother Halek saying, Hidon, at that moment, I would have done this, this, and this different than what you did. I just walked away. And Halek explained that it's our responsibility to put that man in line, because he might one day insult somebody who might have a gun and might shoot him. But if we put him in line with a nice choke, it will show him that his behavior is unacceptable, and hopefully it'll kind of correct him to where he does not get himself hurt by somebody else who doesn't have the technique that we have. So in a sense, we're helping that person by choking them out. So that was interesting, and I can understand why Halek or Hanzo might think that way, but it's just not really my nature. Everybody's different, and when it comes to me, I just want to say, hey, listen, sir, I don't want any problems. Please forgive me, and walk away.
Well, there's a flip side of it, is that you might have choked the guy out, and now he thinks, oh my God, I've been choked out by someone. I must carry a gun now, just in case that ever happens again. And actually, the incident made him carry a gun to shoot somebody. So you never know. I think that walking away in general is always the better thing to do. Do you know what I'm saying?
Walking away is always the best. The question is, what is the line that someone has to cross to where you can't walk away? And for some people, if you call me a piece of trash, that might be the line. Hey, he insulted me. I can't walk away anymore. So, and to others, of course you can still walk away. If you call me any name you want verbally, I can walk away. So everybody's different. Everybody's line is different. Everybody's, boundaries. So when it comes to me, unless the person is throwing a punch towards me, I'm going to walk away. I almost believe that even if the person, for example, slaps my wife, and then after he slaps her, he steps back like 10 steps. He's out of my reach. I'm not going to walk towards him anymore, because it's almost my mistake that I allowed him to slap her in the first place. I should have been a little more aware of our environment, and I should have been closer to her to protect her. But it's already the past. He already slapped her. He's already, 20 feet away from me. He's already a good distance away. I'm not going to go after him. Now, she might expect me to go after. She might be angry. Like, go get him. Get him on my behalf. Defend my honor. But it's already done. And she's going to have to learn to deal with the fact that she got slapped. And it was my error for not defending her in the first place. But me beating him up will only help her ego. It's not going to help make her feel better physically. It'll only make her feel better emotionally, as if I defended her. And when it comes to the defense, all she has to know is that I'm now standing next to her, and then if he comes forward, I'll break his arm. But we have to, it's a very, crazy thought and idea, and I myself am not even certain if I can even do that. Meaning, if it actually happens, I might run forward, charge him, and put him to sleep. But I would hope not, because I want to live in the moment. And if he slapped her and he walks away, it's already the past. It's already over.
If you're a better man than me, I would dive forward and do my best to kick the crap out of the guy.
Correct.
And it wouldn't be any nice, humane thing. It'd be the old rear naked choke and then the little shaving on the ground.
Yeah.
And they're asleep type thing. That's,
But what's interesting is that, for example, let's say someone does, someone pushes my child onto the floor. This man pushes my child to the floor. And now my child's on the ground crying. I pick my kid up. I say, are you okay? And if I go, or even better, somebody pushes my child on the floor, and then I run after the guy who did that. And now we run away. And for whatever reason, we have to run 15 yards away, and we're fighting in the street. Let's say for some reason I end up underneath the fight, and I'm not getting beat up, and I'm on the bottom, and I'm, doing okay. Now my child that's 1 year old is still crying on the floor 30 yards away or however far away from me. And who knows what else could happen to my 1 year old child that's alone now on the floor. So we have to be careful, responding emotionally and just charging somebody. Our main concern has to be protecting that person that we're with, whether it's your wife or your child or whoever, your mother, or your friend, because staying with them, make sure that they're okay, and make sure that they don't get any further injury or damage is more important than satisfying my ego and defending the fact that you attacked my child or my wife. And there's always a risk that if I go and I beat somebody up, that a police officer shows up and sees me beating them up. And now I'm getting arrested. And obviously I can explain myself on how what I did was right and how they first pushed my child. But now my child could be standing up with no injuries. And now here I am getting arrested, getting put in a police car. My child's by themselves on the floor. It's just kind of like, all this for what reason? And it's only because, remember, why do we get so angry when somebody attacks somebody that we love? And it's because we identify with that person that was attacked. We say that, you know what, this is my wife, this is my girlfriend, this is my child, so you attacked me, like you punched my arm. But remember, the person that physically or verbally attacks you or your loved one isn't doing it for any reason other than the fact that they are in pain. they are going through something in their lives that push them to the limit to attack you. So all I'm saying is that don't take it as, you know what, that man just pushed my child onto the floor. We don't know what that man is going through in his life that caused him to do that. I don't think that anybody who might push my 1 or 2 or 3-year-old child onto the floor has a problem with my child. Their problem is within themselves. And they might express it onto my child, and I might take that action personally. But we don't know. That man could have been fired from his job, you know, that morning, and my child happened to bump into him a little bit, and he pushes my kid to the floor. So, and now I beat him up. So it's a tricky thing. So you can't go wrong by holding off for, let's just say, 1 minute or 2 minutes before you respond to anything. Obviously, other than a physical attack, you have to respond immediately. But when something happens and then it's done happening, give it 1 minute, stand back, look at the whole situation, and after 1 or 2 minutes, then respond. And there's a good chance that it will change your response, because hopefully you'll be a little bit, you know, you'll calm down for a second and you'll see things, and maybe you'll just tell yourself, you know what, this person is obviously having a bad day, and I'm not going to allow their bad day to carry over to me and to my day.
Wow, it's always interesting listening to Ryron, and I assure you that part 2 of this interview is even more interesting. Check this out.
The only person that comes close to the threat level of Henner is Chrome.
It would be very interesting to see Ryron Gracie versus Helio Gracie.
Helio will bring an amazing threat. Eventually someone's going to lose, no matter what a Gracie wins, and then one Gracie loses.
Would you say that the Gracie family in general is getting closer together or further apart as we enter this new era with things like Gracie University and all the rest?
I guess my answer is,
I definitely can't wait for that one.
Hi, my name is Francis Robinson, and you're listening to the UKGJJ podcast.
The competitions, as always, are brought to you by UKGJJ Shop. Visit UKGJJ Shop at shop.ukgjj.com. So, guys, it's that time where we are looking at the competition winners right now. And because I have the dream team with me, let's get involved in picking a winner out of the hat. So, the question, Joshua, if you can remember me, what was the question?
It was on our online store, our merchandise store. What item do we sell specifically for toddlers?
And sorry, what store was that?
Shop.ukgjj.com.
Wow, that sounds like a really good.
It's amazing.
Is it pretty
guys.
amazing,
Check
Francis?
it out.
Yeah,
It's got to be pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
So what was the question again? I forgot.
So the question was, so on our online store, shop.ukgjj.com,
Yeah.
what item do we sell which is specifically for toddlers?
There was a clue in the title, really, to be fair, wasn't there?
Yeah.
What is the answer to said question?
The answer is the Gracie baby gi.
A gi for babies?
With a baby black belt.
That's
So
amazing.
cute.
Is it really cute?
It's so cute.
Fantastic. Listen, but don't worry if you didn't win the competition, because you can go to the store at
shop.ukgjj.com.
exactly and pick up your own. Hey, but check it out. So we had a load of entries in here. We have a hat right now. It's a very nice hat. It looks like it's Bubbles. He has extraordinary hats, and we'll be looking at. Maybe I'll put a photograph of him wearing a hat up now. There he is. Looks good, doesn't it? And right now he has, how many entries are in there? There's quite a few in
It's
there.
a big pile in my
Thousands.
hand. Yeah, it's
There's a
like,
big pile in his hands.
I'm going to have to do a lot of ruffling around to
Okay,
to
so
get through these.
Francis, what I'd like you to be able to do is, if you just stick that extraordinary hand into that hat and pull out. Okay. There's paper's going everywhere here. Just pull out one. Any'll do. And if you pass that over to my friend over there, probably the only one of about 3 of us who can actually read. And please give me the name of. In fact, do we need like a drum roll?
Let's have a drum roll and a bugle.
Who's a bugle? Francis, you want to do?
I'll do the bugle.
Can we all do the bugle?
So I'll do the bugle.
Okay, ready?
And the winner is...
My bugle's gone flat.
I think he swallowed the bugle. What's the winner?
And the winner is Peter Braesby.
That's a familiar name. Peter Braesby.
Yeah.
Is he one of our students?
He's one of our students.
Yay!
Well done.
Get in
Wow.
there, lads.
Congratulations, brother.
Very well done. And you have won
He
a...
has won one of our branded UK Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gis. So we'll be getting that out to him as soon as possible. Congratulations, brother. Awesome work.
Fantastic. Give him a clap, everybody.
What's up, guys? Henry Gracie here, and you're listening to the UKGJJ podcast. Damn!
For all you guys out there watching the YouTube version of this podcast, you would have seen a picture of Ryron Gracie wearing our Pearl Weave UKGJJ gi. So here's another chance to win another one of those gis. And this time, all you have to do is answer this question. How tall is Ryron Gracie? That's how tall is Ryron Gracie. If you think they know the answer, and you want to win a UKGJJ Pearl Weave gi, then send your answer to podcast@ukgjj.com for your chance to win. I look forward to future podcasts with the Dream Team right now. So once again, it's the Sacha, it's the Joshua Anakin Taylor, and it's the Francis Red Bobble Lobble Double Double. Say something for the people, Josh.
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening.
Say something for the people, Francis.
See you later. It's been amazing.
You've been amazing. And we will see you soon. Peace!